Welcome back. In this video we will learn about databases. There are three types of databases in Android to store data permanently. In most of the cases we have to have a medium to store our data permanently. So it depends on the data that which type of database we will use. For example, we have shared preferences in which we can store data in the form of key value pairs, and there is another database that is called SQLite database. This is just like MySQL database, and in it we can store our data, but this data is stored inside Android app. There is a folder called DB that is being created automatically, and this data is being stored there. Also, the shared preferences data is also stored in your Android app. So if we have some kind of light data to store, so then in those cases we will use either shared preferences or SQLite. We in some cases we do not use shared preferences because we have data of different kind. For example, we want to store a lot of data, not just key value pairs. We have different kind of data. For example, we want to store a user information, so in those cases we use SQLite. And but in most of the cases we do not use both of these databases. These are used only for taking care of simple flags or things like that. We mostly use is online databases, and in those databases one is the MySQL database that is been installed on all of the servers. I'm going to introduce you with another database that is by Google, and that is called Firebase. Firebase is a real-time database that is mostly used nowadays for chat applications and real-time applications which can update in real time. So Firebase is very important and very popular nowadays, so we will use this also. So one by one I will introduce you to all of these databases. So I'm going to start with shared preferences, then I will introduce you other. So first of all, I'm here in my main activity. I'm going to create a shared preference. First of all, you need to create a shared preference. Reference, shared preferences reference, and then you need to assign its object. For example, and you need to pass two things to this shared preferences object. One is the name of that little database or a little shared preference you want to create. For example, I want is my DB, for example, and the next is the mode in which you want to open this. For example, I'm going to give it context dot mode private. You can read about these modes yourself. Okay, so it's actually no. Let me check the documentation of it. Let's get here. This is about shared preferences, context dot get shared preferences. Alright. So it is an abstract class, cannot be created object of it. We have to get it by using its getter. We can get it by using get shared preferences. For example, this dot get shared preferences, this will refer to the context of this activity. So this way we have created shared preferences. We want to edit this shared preference and we want to put something, so we have to create an editor for this. For that I'm going to create shared preferences dot editor. It is going to be editor is equal to dot edit function. You need to call shared preferences dot edit function on the object you have just created. Now you can easily edit this shared preference using this editor object. So I'm going to do that. I can put some value here. There is a function put. If you want to put string, then you can use put string for integer, int, and for other types respectively. You can use that, and for this I'm going to give a key that will be a string, for example, and I'm going to give it Android, and its value is going to be development. And now we need to save this information that we have provided, so we can do that by just editor dot commit. So this will automatically save the information we have provided it. So now we have been able to store a key value pair. You can do that. You can also put other strings if you want to. And you can store information like this. And now you can get this information back by just getting this shared preferences object. So you can get this information back like string. For example, the first information was, let's say, Android is equal to shared preferences dot get string, and I need to provide the key I have already given to it. For example, I have given it Android, and then the next value is we need to provide it default value. For example, in some cases maybe that shared preferences don't contain any information against that key, so in that case it will return our default value. So I'm going to make it default, for example. Any string you can put in. So now I can print this out, log.e, Android. Let's run this project. I don't have anyone running, so let me run one. Let's copy this and just get other string also, abc. Yes. Perfect. So we've got our emulator running. Project will be built very soon. So if I go to run menu, and it has printed out that development was the first string we have provided it, and the second one was default. Sorry, the second one was second string. So it has printed out both of these values. So this way you can store information in shared preferences, and these are used for storing little data. If you have lots of data, then you will be using other kind of databases. So now I'm going to demonstrate SQLite. For that I'm going to just comment this out or keep it running. Let me just go to the google.com and just search for SQLite database helper class in Android, for example, and just get to the bottom. Let me search for my favorite website, that is Codebind. Here it is. Just copy this whole database class and go to your Android and just create a new class, name it Java class, and it is going to be database helper. Just paste it in. Perfect. So what this helper class does is it enables us to interact with SQLite database. We don't have to write all of this code to create the database, to get the information about the database, to update data, to get all data. We don't need to write this, but I'm going to teach you about what this all of code is doing. So first of all, there should be a database name. So it has created a database name. You can change it whatever you want. And then there is a table name. He has given it student table. You can use anyone. And then there are 4 columns in it. Each column contains an information, for example ID, name, surname and marks. This is kind of information about a student. So he's going to have 4 columns in the table. And then this is the constructor of this database helper. Whenever we will create an object of this is going to be called, and we will provide it only the context of that particular activity in which we are going to create this. And then it will automatically execute its onCreate function, and in its onCreate function it is executing an SQL query that will create table for us. It is going to be create table plus the table name, create table plus the table name you want to create, and then the information about the columns you want to have and which type of columns you want to have. ID will be integer, and primary key auto increment means that it will automatically be incremented on each record, and then name will be form of text. There is no kind of string data type in SQLite, so we have to give it text. And the same with surname and marks are going to be integer. So if you want to update your database, then there will be on upgrade function will be called, and drop table if exists. It will drop the table name you will provide, or the table name there you have given it. It will drop that, and it will call on create db. That means that if this table is already existing, so it will drop that table, and again it will call this function to create that table again. Alright, so if you want to insert some kind of data, then you will be calling this insert data function, and you will be providing it the information you want to store, and this will get an instance to the database, and then it will get content values. It's kind of an adapter that enables it to interact with this database. So it is going to store that information in content values, and finally it is going to insert that information and using content values object. Alright, so if the information is inserted, it will return true, else it will return false. So there is another function called get all data. It is going to get all data. Select static is an SQL query that returns all of the data in that particular table. Select static from table name, it will return all of the data. And there is an update data function that is going to be used to update data and for that he is going to have the same information again, and in addition to that information it is going to have ID to update the record of which particular record you want to update. And then there is a function db.update that will update that information in database, and it will return true. There is a delete data. This will delete all of the information from the table. So this was about database helper. Now we will use this to create a database, and we will use this to store our information. If you go to this website, it has given a nice tutorial on this, how you can just store data, create database, and just store data. Perfect. So now we are going to create this database in our main activity. Just go to there and create a database object. For example, I'm going to create database helper. db helper is equal to new database helper, and then you need to provide it context, and I'm going to provide it our class context. And then we can do all of the CRUD functionality, that is create, read, update, and delete. So I'm going to do that. For that, first db helper dot add data. For example, what is the function dot insert data, and for example I want to insert is name of, for example I want to insert Zishan is the name, and surname is, and then the marks I've got. For example, what's wrong here, it's going to be string. Perfect. So this is going to store one record. So if I want multiple records, so I'm going to do that. Let's say okay, this is the information I want to store. Now you can do this in a function, separate function. You can create that, for example public void add data or insert data, whatever you want to create, and just you can do this stuff here in it. But for that you need to do something else, and that is you have to create this outside of your activity, or you have to create this as a data member, because it is going to have the scope inside this function. It is not accessible here. For that I'm going to create it over. So this way you can add data, and now you have to call this function, so you can access that whole data. So how you can access that? Public void get data. For example, you have a function called get data, and just you can use the db helper dot get all data. So this will return all of the data. Now you need to store that data in object. Like, let me check which type of object it returns. It returns a cursor, so we need to create a cursor here, cursor type of object. cursor, for example res is equal to, so this will return me data and all of the data I have in resource. So now I can get all of that information. For example, let me go here. Where is the get data? So we are going to loop through this whole resource because it is going to have multiple records and each record will be treated separately. So for that I'm going to have an while loop here, and resources dot move to next is a function that provides us the next value of it. So first we will have this value, the first one. First we will check if its length is greater than 0, then we will do this. Otherwise we will return, means if this is lesser than 0 or equal to 0, then we will return. We are not going to perform any kind of stuff. So once we are there, it will, now we can have its information, like we can print it out like log.e name comma resources.getString. You can get it by column name or get it by string by just column index. For example, it is going to be 0 and log.e, and the next one is surname. You can get it by just resources.getString column 1 here, and the third value is numbers or marks, so you can get that also resources.getString, and it is the column 3. Perfect. So this way you can get all the information in database and print that out. So let me run this program, just call get data here and just run it. Let's see what happens. And you can see that name is 1. This is a bit wrong, and that was that in the first index, that is 0, there is ID of that. So I'm printing ID instead of name, so I can do this is just, this is second column and this is third. So I'm going to run it again. So this is the information name is Ishan, and this is its actually the marks, and then Rob and Percival and that, and it is printing how much times, how much values I've inserted. Let me check that. 4 values, so let me check if it is printing 4 or not. First name, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8. It is printing 2 times each and every one. Why it's doing that? Let me check this. Let me refer to this one. Oh, perfect. The logic behind that was that we have run this program 2 times. So this has automatically stored the data 2 times, so it is going to be it is going to print it 2 times. If I run it again, it will print it 3 times. You will see it in action shortly. And you can see this long stuff. So this was about databases. In the next few videos we will learn about Firebase, and then we will create our very weighted WhatsApp app with Firebase. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next videos.